everybody. Happy Friday. Hope you're doing great. Top of the hour, and really glad to be with you today on Daily Distinction. Glad you are here, and thanks for joining me. This is our last Daily Distinction for a few days. So just got to kind of review some good things to be thinking about until we're back together again. I am not going to be back until November the 9th. So this is our last Daily Distinction until November 9. I will be checking in occasionally, but Tammy and I are going to go on vacation. And let me say, first off, thank you very much to Sean. Tammy's brother comes and stays in our house, lives in our house while we're gone, and takes care of pups and takes care of the house. And we really, really appreciate that there's somebody here all the time. So that's always good. So thank you, Sean, for that. Thank you if you're watching on the replay. Thanks to everybody checking in. And glad you are here. Ted, how you doing? Happy Friday. Hope you're doing great. Well, Bill, just for a few days. Been doing this every day since the pandemic hit back in March, and haven't missed very many days, but next week is birthday, and my beautiful bride has decided, and I did not object, that we're going to get away for a week. We don't do that nearly enough, and I'm always talking to you guys about the importance of recharging your batteries, and I think it's pretty important. I practice what I preach, so we're going to get away for a few days. So really, really excited about that. So once again, the next live Daily Distinction will be on Monday, November the 9th. The election will be over, maybe. and we'll have a lot to talk about, that's for sure. But I will be checking in live, just dropping in occasionally. So be watching for that. So I want to put together some reminders for your coming week. Just some things that if you want to be active on creating distinction, even though we're not getting together here for Daily Distinction, some things that I would suggest that you focus on. So do it. Hey, Scott, great to see you. I appreciate that. Randall, and if anybody knows when my birthday is, it is the great Randall Reeder. Randall, as you can see there, does Will Rogers, and I'm fortunate, blessed to share the same birthday as Will Rogers. Not the same year, but the same date. Right. All right. Yeah, so here's a few reminders for your coming week. All right. You know, so many times in business, we think about growing naturally. I mean, we should. Entrepreneurs should think about how do we grow our businesses. We should all be thinking about how do we develop? How do we expand? How do we sell more? How do we serve better? All of those things are always on our mind anytime that you have a business. As a matter of fact, it should be that way no matter what business you have. You don't have to be an entrepreneur to think that way. You could be selling a particular product or service in a territory. It doesn't matter what it is. We want it to grow, but it's counterintuitive how we make that happen. I want to suggest to you, don't think about getting bigger. First, think about getting focused. Be less to have more. Now, I don't mean less personally, but I mean tighten the focus. We've talked about it here before, but one of the first things that Steve Jobs did when he came back to Apple was slash a number of the products that they were selling. Basically, they had a consumer desktop and a professional desktop. They had a consumer laptop and a professional laptop, and that was it. He cut out everything else from the printers to the peripherals to on and on and on, because before they could grow, they first had to get focused. And that's what I'm going to suggest to you. Before you grow, you first got to get focused. In other words, by restricting and becoming less, it enables us to have more. The first cornerstone of distinction is clarity, and that's part of how you get there, is by getting focused, first of all. So that's the first thing I would suggest. Hey, Weldon, glad to see you here. Oh, good. That's exactly what you're doing. I love hearing that. That's awesome. All right, so then after we get focused, here's an important question I think we need to be asking of ourselves. Are we serving our customers today exactly as we did a year ago? And if the answer is yes, that means we got some work to do, because the market has certainly changed. Customers have changed. The pandemic has changed us all in terms of how we shop and how we build and how we serve and what we do. So if what you're doing today is exactly what it was a year ago, you may be on a pathway to extinction rather than distinction. What we have to do is to think about, how do we do something unexpected for our customers? You know, we talked about this. I was talking to my friend Willie Jolly, who is a professional speaker extraordinaire, has his own show on Sirius XM, member of the Professional Speakers Hall of Fame. He's based in the Washington, D.C. area. And Willie was telling me he called every client that he's had for the last 20 years. And he said, hey, I'm not calling to to sell you a thing. I just want to see how you're doing. This is such a crazy time, and I just want to know how you're doing. Now, did he get a lot of business because of that? Absolutely. But that's not why he called. He really sincerely wanted to serve. And he said one of the things that struck him was it made such an impact. Why wasn't he making these calls all along? Well, we can't change the past, but we can influence the future. And the way that you do that is by doing something unexpected. It could be as simple as sending a brownie. It could be as simple as a chocolate chip cookie. It could be as simple as a handwritten postcard. Just doing something unexpected to serve today a little differently than what you served a year ago. Oh, there's a good one, Weldon. Yeah, more personalized service to fewer customers. Right. We turn up the intensity. That's one of the things I found too in the field of financial services when I talk to financial advisors is that the key to their growth is to really intensely serve their best clients and not dilute their time by running everywhere to serve the clients that aren't as active and aren't as involved. So finding ways to do that is really, really critical. Here's another thing I'd like to suggest that you do. Make a list. Write out a list of what every one of your customers has a right to expect from you. What are the non-negotiables? What are the things that you have to get right every single time? When you come up with that list, according to Harvard, it puts you in the top 16%. Only 16% of businesses even have a list of this is what we have to do every single time. You've heard me say here many times that customers don't want you to make it right. They want you to get it right. And the way that you get it right is by, first of all, making your list of the non-negotiables. These are the things we are always going to get right. And then we try to improve on those. Hey, here's my pal Joe Calloway. Consistent excellence requires constant improvement. It does. It does. We've got to get better. Joe, you say that and talk about that better than anybody I know. That's exactly the point. We've got to continually improve at what we do. And we have to look at what did we do last year? And if all we're doing last year is if all we're doing now is exactly what we did last year, we're missing out because the world has changed. Here's another thing I'd like for you to do. Outline a story of how one of your customers, just one, how did they benefit because they chose you over the competition? In other words, did you serve them more intensely? Did you improve on your level of service with them? Did they find that a solution that maybe they wouldn't have found had you not been involved? I want you just to outline a story. It doesn't have to be a long diatribe. It doesn't have to be you're not trying to write the next John Grisham novel here. Just outline a story. Tell me about when a customer benefited because they chose you instead of the competition. Now, by the way, if you're having trouble thinking of a customer, then you're not close enough to your customers if you don't know their story. If you have a trouble thinking about how they would benefit because they chose you instead of the competition, then you aren't doing enough to outserve your competition. You may be doing something to outsell them, but you certainly aren't doing enough to outserve them if you can't think of a reason that they benefited because it was you instead of them. But if you're able to do both, and I certainly hope you are, I'd like for you to just outline a story. What was their problem? What was the search they had to resolve that problem? And how did acquiring your product or service make a difference for them? Yeah, you can jot it down on one sheet of paper. Think about what that story would be, and then just tell that story to someone. Hey, it could be your spouse, your partner. It could be a business associate. It could be a prospect. It could be another customer that you want to enhance their business. But tell that story to somebody. Just practice it. Just tell it. It might be a customer that you already have, but you think they have the potential to be a better customer, buy more. Maybe they need to hear the story about how you helped succeed for someone else. So by telling that story, you enhance the connection that you have not only with that customer that you're trying to get more business with, you also enhance your ability to relate the narrative to others in an important way. Yeah, solving their problem quickly is what your customers want. Yeah, and isn't that something, Weldon? I couldn't agree with you more. I think we're more busy today. I'm busier than I ever remember being, and it's crazy because I used to have to get on planes and travel all the time and go from point to point. And I used to think I was busy. And now, with the immediacy that's required because of the time that we're in, it's changed. Everything is changing out there. And it's really, really important. Hey, Merv, so good to see you. Oh, you wrote a story to practice at your Toastmasters Club tomorrow, right? And man, I'm telling you what, Merv is a terrific speaker. And I'm really glad to hear you say that you practice, because that reinforces the fact that even when you're really good at telling the story, you need to practice it. I mean, hey, the NFL teams don't just get together on Sunday and get out there and play. They practice all week long. They're the best in the world at what they do, and they continue to practice all the time. Hey, Randall, there's a great idea. Just tell the story on your Facebook page. Share it with your Facebook followers. A great, great idea. So practice the story. People say, how did you get to be a speaker? And I was so fortunate. I had so much good fortune along the way. Tammy always tells me not to say luck, because luck is just random chance. Fortunate is when you develop your skills, but you also put yourself in the right position. And so one of the ways that I was so fortunate was I practiced speaking like a lot of kids in high school practiced a musical instrument. I only remember a couple of nights, the whole 4 years of high school, prom night, that I didn't stand in my room and turn on a little recorder and practice 2 speeches every night. One was a prepared speech I was giving for a competition, either an FFA or some other speaking competition. I would practice that every night, and I would listen to the recording and I'd work on it. I'd practice it every night. And then the other thing that I would do every night is to stand in my room and I would pick something out in my room, a coat hanger, and I would make myself give a 3 to 5 minute speech about some object that I just picked out of the air in my room. Coat hanger, pajama bottoms, bedspread. And I would make myself give a 3 to 5 minute speech about that, relating that to some topic, to teach myself the ability to think on your feet and to not be saying, or, or those things that you hear from a lot of speakers. So I love this, Merv. Yep. It's laboring under the correct knowledge. Yes. That's luck. Yep. So that's the key. It's incessant practice. So outline your story and practice it. Hey, there's Donovan. Good to see you, my friend. Yep, I'm really glad you took a couple minutes to join us. And there you go. You practice the story every day. And Donovan, you'll relate to this. Some of the best audiences I ever had was my rear view window and my windshield, right? Because the funny thing is that was before cell phones, right? So if you were talking if somebody passed you on the interstate and you were talking in your car, they thought you were crazy or singing along with the music. I was practicing a speech. Well, now you can just talk along in your car, and everybody assumes that you're on your speakerphone, right, on Bluetooth. So it's a lot easier now than it was then to practice in your car. So practice makes it. Practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes permanent. And that was the reason that I listened to the recording on and on, is that I didn't want to get in bad habits. So just because you're practicing doesn't mean you're going to get better. You've got to practice to improve. And when you feel uncomfortable, that's when it's working. Hey, there's Carrie Lynn. Good to see you. That's a different profile picture. Look at you scaling that wall there. That's terrific. Great to see you. Thank you for being here. So those are the things that I'd like for you to think about over the next few days until we're back together again on Monday, November 9th. Get focused before you try to get bigger. In other words, get centered on what really matters. You don't have to be all things to all people, but you need to be really important to a select group of customers. Do something unexpected for your customers. Serve them today differently than you served them a year ago. Make it a little bit better. As my pal Joe Calloway said, where'd it go? Right here. Consistent excellence requires constant improvement. It does. It demands it. It requires it. Really, really important. And then make a list. What does every customer have a right to expect from you? Because they've chosen you instead of the competition, there are some things that they absolutely have a right to expect. What are they? What are the things that you have to deliver on every time? Make the list. Outline a story of how a customer benefited because they chose you instead of the competition, and then get out there and tell that story to somebody. Practice that story. So, hey, Scott, thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. Thank you. You know the Crothersville story, absolutely. Hey, Debbie, great to see you. How are you? Thank you. I appreciate that. Good to see you. Yes, sir, Joe. We take off in the morning, provided our COVID results are what we think and hope they're going to be. We will be heading out. And I want to thank Sean again for coming here and staying in the house, taking over the house for the time that we're gone. That's really nice, and I appreciate that, Sean, if you're watching. So I'll see you in a few days. Thank you for being a part of. It's kind of like we've had a family here. That so many of us are here every day that share every day, and I'm going to miss you. I appreciate that. Hey, Darcy, thank you for saying that. That's very kind. I hope everything's good in Fishers. Thanks, Pam. That's so kind. Hey, Mark, always great to see you. Thank you for being here. Craig, we're going to recharge the batteries, my friend. I appreciate that greatly. It's important. So hope everybody here has a chance to take some time off. And thank you for the birthday wishes. Yeah, I used to fly and travel all the time with speaking, and Tammy and I were looking at all these frequent flyer miles that we got set in there. Man, flight's free, the hotel's free. But if you don't lose it, there's some of the points that if we don't use, we lose. So we just thought, let's do it. Right. And I hope you find a way to just do it, make it happen. So thanks everybody for being here today. I really, really appreciate it. Well, then thank you. I appreciate that. And I look forward to seeing you. I will be checking in at certain times. So just keep an eye on the web, on the Facebook page or on Twitter, YouTube, wherever you happen to be watching. And I'll look forward to catching up with you for real on the next Daily Distinction, November the 9th. Make sure you get out and vote for whoever you support. Have a great week. I look forward to talking to you again in a few days on the next Daily Distinction. Thanks, everybody.